You might be wondering why Atiku Abubakar is back in the headlines. It is because he raised an allegation that strikes at the heart of Nigeria's democracy, that Tinubu's tax reform law may have been forged after passage, and act it claims amounts to treason against the Nigerian people. So, to understand why this matters, we must first understand what is he saying, what it means, and finally, what it could lead to if ignored. So, let's start. What is Atiku Abubakar actually saying? Atiku's statement alleges that after lawmakers passed the tax reform bills, new provisions were inserted that were never debated, never voted, and never approved. Specifically, it points to the changes that expanded enforcement powers of tax authority. It talked about the increased financial burdens on taxpayers and also the removal of legislative and ministerial oversight mechanism. In Atiku's view, this is not a drafting error. It is not a clerical oversight. It is an illegal alteration of law. And under Nigeria's constitutional framework, this is a very serious claim. So, why is this a constitutional issue, not a political one? Under Section 4 and 58 of the 1999 Constitution, lawmaking power belongs to the National Assembly. The executive can propose bills, it can recommend policies, it can assent to laws, but it cannot rewrite laws after passage. So once a bill is passed, any alteration outside parliamentary procedure is not reform, it is forgery. So when Article says this act amounts to treason against the Nigerian people, he's not using word loosely. He is pointing to something deeper, the subversion of legislative supremacy, which is the backbone of constitutional democracy. So what does this alleged alteration mean in practice? Let's break down the implications. First, coercive enforcement powers. The altered provisions reportedly allow tax authority to arrest citizens, seize property, and enforce collection without court order. What does this mean? It collapses the wall between tax administration and law enforcement. It removes judiciary oversight, and of course, it weakens due process. So, in simple terms, it gives unelected officials powers that even the police cannot exercise without courts. The second is financial barriers to justice. Article highlights provisions such as a mandatory 20% deposit before appealing tax assessments. It talked about compound interest on disputed tax liabilities. He also mentioned increased reporting burdens with lower threshold. The meaning is clear. Justice becomes pay to assess. Only the wealthy can challenge the government. Small businesses and ordinary Nigerians are effectively silenced. That is not taxation policy, that is economic intimidation. The third one is removal of accountability. And perhaps the most worrying part is what was alleged removed, because reporting obligations to National Assembly was being boycotted. And imagine not having ministerial oversight provisions. This matters because power without oversight is not reform, it is authoritarian drift. So once the constitution stops reporting, citizens stop knowing. And once citizens stop knowing, abuse becomes easy. So what Atiku is really warning against is not just the tax law. He's warning about precedents because if the government can alter tax law after passage, it can also alter any law. Today is the tax law, tomorrow it could be elections, next is criminal justice. Democracy rarely dies loudly. It erodes quietly through technical breaches that people are told to ignore. Atiku also mentioned the broader economic meaning, saying that Nigerians are already battling with high inflations, widespread poverty, youth unemployment, business closures, and in such an environment, aggressive taxation without growth strategy does not increase revenue, it shrinks the economy. And this is why the call is clear. The executive must pause implementation of tax law scheduled for 1st of January 2026 because the National Assembly must reassert its authority and correct any illegal alteration. The judiciary must interpret, and that is if it's fair to say that Nigeria has got an independent one, and strike down on constitutional provisions because Nigerians must pay attention because silence today is regret tomorrow. It's about whether laws in Nigeria truly means what lawmakers pass because once that line is crossed, no citizen is truly protected. It is a truth at a time. Take care and have a nice day.